With some of our older gems like Blastcore back in players' hands through the magic of Rare Replay, we thought you might want to know more about it. So here, direct from the people who made the game, are 5 things you didn't know about Blastcore. Probably. Like many older Rare games, and old games in general, Blastcore was not what you'd call narratively complex. One good idea went a long way.
The first thing we did was sat down and worked out, well, why would you want to knock these buildings down? We had a what we termed a constantly moving object that moved through the landscape that provided a channel to the gameplay where we always knew where the action was going to take place.
But for most of Blastcore's development, that was as far as the story went. A fleet of vehicles, a swathe of destruction, and the constantly moving object, whatever that might be.
That was the only single gameplay feature, was basically that. We didn't really think about it, and we just made up some story at the end. We only put the sausage truck in right at the end, if you remember. The Savoy transporter.
The eventual story about leaking nuclear missiles, a carrier on autopilot, and 5 ex-military heroes, including yourself, was expanded on the Rare website and in a one-off Blastcore comic. There were other ideas for what might have been on board, including antimatter, binary liquids, a DNA mutating virus, and of course the plotline with a nice black currant drink resting on a beige carpet. If the carrier hit a wall, your drink went over, there was a stainage, it was a disaster! Get Blastcore on the phone right now! But for whatever reason, that pitch didn't get too far. Shame really. In the making of Blastcore, we showed some of the unused vehicle concepts that just didn't find a place in the flow of the game. Among the wilder ideas, there was one in particular that, for some reason, everyone on the team remembers.
Some of them didn't get in because they were just too out there, basically. There was one with a groin cab in it, don't ask why. The way you get into the vehicle was there'd be an elevator, effectively, which would drop down from the groin to ground level, when the little man would go in it, and then it would come back up into the groin, and you would pilot the vehicle from the groin.
So why didn't the groin cab make it into the final game?
That's one of the real mysteries. It was just a walking vehicle, and you just happened to be piloting it from the groin.
For a game about the threat of nuclear devastation, Blastcore has a surprisingly varied soundtrack. Is it possible to pick a favourite? One that perhaps made more of a lasting impression than others? Someone who might know is the man who composed all of them.
My personal favourite track from back then has got to be Simeon Acres. It had a banjo in it, which at the time no one had done, and suddenly all our games had banjos in, so I was quite proud of that. And I also remember I'd written about 30 seconds of it, and I was playing it on a loop, and Robin came in and he goes, "That's the best track you've ever written." So that was quite praise indeed from him.
Time to get moving. Blastcore's battlefield spanned an entire world map, which wasn't entirely plausible when you think about it, but in contrast, the solar system spinning away in the background was far more authentic than you might imagine.
Graham Smith, who was another programmer, he worked on the front end, amongst other things. We had a spinning globe, and we didn't realise at the time, but he made an exactly accurate representation of the solar system, with the planets spinning around Earth and so on. I think it would have taken quite a few years for some of the planets to come around though, since it was so accurate. I don't think he told us until after he'd actually done it that he'd gone the whole hog effectively and tried to make it as accurate as possible.
Some of the Blastcore level names are curious. For starters, there were some obvious reactions to the Donkey Kong Country monkey madness of mid-90s Rare.
So there was quite a few monkey references in the whole Blastcore game. Simeon Acres was the first level, and then Baboon Catacomb, Gibbons Gate.
Meanwhile, Havoc District was a holdover from the game-changing names from Heavy Duty. As Backlash was already branded with the initials HD, the team tried to find other titles that might fit. It didn't work out, but one of the names was kept on for this level at least. Moraine Chase was a random reference to British sitcom actress Lorraine Chase. As it turned out, she had played one of the designer's previous games on UK TV series Games Master. So with that intense emotional connection in place, the name stuck. And then there were Skerries. What was that about?
One of the levels in Glasgow is called Skerries, which I completely forgot about, which is the town I'm from at home in Ireland. Quite amusing that Martin put it in there.
Also worth noting that many of the bonus race levels were based on real-life Formula 1 tracks, made much more interesting by the chance to charge around them in a bulldozer. So there you go! And we didn't even mention how the game was almost D-pad only, or some of the speech samples we just couldn't use. Maybe another time, but for now, thank you for watching, and we hope you've learned something. If Blastcorps does come up in the pub quiz, we've got your back.